Sin-thea retrieved the snowcat and drove on, the forest getting denser, her hallucinations increasing by the minute. The visions were now accompanied by horrible sounds. She was hearing the workings and meanderings of her own affected brain and mind, something never meant to be heard and endured for very long. She drove on quickly, the branches whipping her, until the forest became too dense for the snowmobile. She got off. The shards of early man now appeared, formed, and then shattered, as the primitive brainstem began failing in its task to sort out human-radiated reality from all else that was out there. She was no longer totally sapiens, but Homo habilis, then erectus, and now, hopefully, handyman. Taken aback, she fell to her knees, overwhelmed, and began to focus on the outlines of the trees and branches, desperately attempting to bring her mind to attention, an old trick she'd learned, to quell panic attacks. But this was the last frontier of horror, even considering what she'd been through in her life. Somehow she got up and continued walking, now privy to all of Earth's invisible radiation, but soon adapted, learning to put much of it out of her mind. She could even hear the noise of thermal vibrations as she moved on. Sin-thea next felt the actual emotion of death and dying via suffocation, but again, through previous practice, noted that she was indeed still breathing in and out, and so she waved death's winged ebon form aside. Waves of adrenaline now swept her body from head to foot, and she nearly fainted and sat down on a rock in case she did faint, not wanting to bang her head. She arose slowly to avoid the hypotension of quick-rising blood pressure. Her heartbeat had to be around 180 now, and this actually helped her along, but too much of this and she would be no more. 20 minutes left. Sin-thea stopped and meditated, trying to focus on nothing to quiet the intrusive thoughts, as she'd learned to do. It didn't work here as well as it had elsewhere, so she switched to another, alternate method, which was to watch the maddening thoughts go by, as if in a parade, but not taking them in or entertaining any of them. They appeared, marched across, and exited, stage right, all unattended to by the witness, her consciousness, for she was now sitting in the audience, way in the back row. As for some thoughts that wouldn't leave at all, she colored them dim and gray, and as such they dissolved into a fog, losing their importance. She got up, her heartbeat perhaps now down to 140, but many nightmares and their foals were still passing on by, as wide-awake dreams, such as in schizophrenia. It was almost too much. Her very self was beginning to disintegrate, she desperately trying to hold on to that last bit of logic in a back corner of her mind somewhere, a mind that was being overwhelmed with unreality. She stumbled on, heading in the direction of increasing sickness, her only means of navigation. What's that? She turned off her light, for there was a glow in the distance. That was it. "10 minutes left. The pressure upon her sense of self grew worse as she approached the glow. Logic's last gleam was fading, for life's last light was now upon her. She was only 10 feet away when waves of confusion washed all thinking away. She fell forward a few more feet and collapsed. So close. She didn't know it yet, but she had entered a zone of safety, one that perhaps the device itself needed to be free to function unaffected by its own emanations. Her head spun round and round as consciousness returned, another familiar sensation, but one that was never very pleasant. 4 minutes left. The mental disturbances were gone now, but she still reeled from their ravages. She felt cold for the first time, then freezing. Her body had been overloaded. Its thermostat was not functioning anymore. It took her a minute to regroup. She'd known cold winters before. She willed her body to function. She stood up and faced the alien device. There was a switch. She turned it off. The glow lights dimmed and the machine began to fade, then into oblivion went. Was it really happening, or was it a hallucination? She reached out her hand to where the device was and felt nothing. She lay down to surrender to the night of death and fell asleep in the Crystal Palace, her tomb to be. Back at the center, all looked to the clock. There were 3 minutes left. As the countdown neared 0, nearly everyone tensed. East looked at West.
It's been fine, this life.
Indeed.
At 0, nothing happened. The CIA called and reported,
"The tremors have stopped, but for the Earth settling back in, all emanations have ceased. It's over."
She closed her eyes, drifting back off towards the netherworld, but then felt some snowflakes falling on her cheek. But it can't snow in here, she thought. The ninjas above were hacking through the ice canopy with pickaxes, showering her with a cooling spray where she lay in her crystalline cathedral. A bright light shone through the hole above, and a rope came down, followed by some black forms. They wrapped her in blankets of electric warmth, then placed her in a harness, and she was lifted up and into the heated heaven of the helicopter. The center erupted in cheers, having watched it on screen. Sin-thea awoke, her cheeks flushed and pink with bloom, but she knew that it was but endorphins flooding her brain and body, as one last gift from the angel of light that is always given to the dying, so that the darker angel of death would not quickly approach one so fair.
What happened?
She turned it off with 3 minutes left and the alien thing just evaporated.
Just evaporated, that's it? She just turned it off 3 minutes early, not even near 0?
This was not a 07 movie.
Ah, but you only live twice. Once when you're born, and again when you stare death in the face.
Perhaps mankind will take some pause from this, valuing life more.
Yes, indeed. Perhaps it has scared the hell out of everyone. I'm still not sure what to make of all this.
Not all things are knowable. We looked for the device afterward. It was gone. There was no trace, but you do have a video of it.
Well, thanks for your help. I don't know how you did it, but you sure pulled this one out of your butts.
Great analogy. I'm afraid we don't really know how we did it either.
It's beyond me. Now about the news media and that alien thing, it never happened.
Yes, I guess it never did, for it's no longer there.
Her sodium level was way down due to her recent stress, but this time she and all were ready for the fragmentation of her psyche that was to come again as a near-death experience, or NDE. Last time, she had gone back a mere 34,000 years, but she had still been in both shock and awe at what she could dredge up, and so she had ventured no further. I can see into the life of things. She was now safely in the hospital, but the sodium drop had already begun a cascade of events that had called upon death to continue to knock at her door, while also revealing the brain's hidden recesses to her consciousness. Opiate endorphins flooded her brain. She was happy and high and could see everything that ever was. She searched back almost 700 million years, although not really knowing how far. Had there been some early trace of humanity's humble beginnings back there? There were dinosaurs, among them Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Thesaurus, and Brontosaurus, towering and dwarfing all else. I am a goner, but at least I'll enjoy the ride. She leapt ahead 10,000 years. The dinosaurs were still dominant. Another day, another sun going down. Then she peered way ahead, 1 million years. They were still there, their numbers having increased, and some of them even flew. We should have been home by now. Where are we? She jumped way ahead, 50 million years. They still covered the earth, devouring all, ever feeding. By what hand were these eternal monsters made to rule the world? Where was Proto-Man? He should have appeared by now. There was going to be trouble. They were beautiful beasts, but she felt no kinship with them. I am not of thee. Sensing their invulnerability, she dared to move tremendously ahead. 500 million years. There were now untold varieties and numbers of dinosaurs. They exhaled the very breath of eternity, that of the never-ending. They were the kings and queens of forever. It looked as if humankind would never make it. I will look for us near rivers deep, clear, and wide. Those shores were empty of early man and filled with swimming monsters. However, something was amiss. The air was rather hazy. She looked but a decade ahead. They were all dead or dying. Their eyes were as blank and empty as paradise. She glanced but another decade further. They were all gone. A stellar nursery, the Pleiades, has just appeared in the night sky. All too soon, in one way, she received the life-saving spinal injection, for she was about to traverse from prehistoric man right on up through Homo sapiens. But at least death would have to come back another day.